David looked at his $20,000 Rolex and then at the muddy floor of the shack. He started to shake. Then, the man who owned 3 tech companies and a mansion in Malibu did something his business partners would never believe. He collapsed onto a plastic stool and sobbed. He didn't cry because he was robbed. He didn't cry because he was scared. He cried because, for the first time in 50 years, he realized his entire life had been a lie. And it all started with a wrong turn in a remote village in Cebu. The man who had everything, David, was the kind of guy who measured success in commas and zeros. To him, the Philippines was just a tropical backdrop for a luxury vacation. He wanted white sand, 5-star resorts, and people to serve him. He was arrogant, he was loud, and he treated the local staff like background noise. On day 3 of his trip, David hired a local driver named Jun to take him to a hidden waterfall. David was impatient. He kept checking his watch. "Can we go faster? I'm paying for speed, not a Sunday stroll," he snapped. Jun just smiled, a quiet, humble smile. "The roads are narrow here, sir. We must be careful." David rolled his eyes. "Just get me there." But the mountains of Cebu had other plans. A sudden tropical downpour turned the dirt road into a river of sludge. The SUV slid, groaned, and sank, frame deep into the mud. They were stuck, in the middle of nowhere. No cell service, no luxury. The conflict. "Fix it." David lost it. He screamed at Jun. He blamed the country, the roads, and the incompetence. "I have a dinner reservation that costs more than this car," David yelled. "Do something!" Jun didn't yell back. He just took off his boots, stepped into the knee-deep mud, and started digging with his bare hands. Hours passed. David sat in the air-conditioned car, fuming, watching this man struggle in the rain. He expected Jun to give up. He expected him to beg for more money. Instead, a group of local farmers passed by. They didn't have heavy machinery. They had carabaos, water buffalo, and ropes. David watched through the window, convinced they were going to scam him. "They're going to ask for $1,000 to pull us out," he muttered. But they didn't ask for anything. They worked for 2 hours in the pouring rain, laughing and joking with Jun, until the SUV was finally free. When David reached for his wallet to throw some pity money at them, the farmers waved him off. They shook Jun's hand, patted the car, and walked back into the fields. Empty-handed. David was confused. Why didn't they take the money? Jun wiped the mud from his face. "Because, sir, you looked like you needed help. You don't pay for kindness." The turning point. The invitation. The car was free, but the road ahead was blocked by a fallen tree. Jun suggested they wait out the storm at his cousin's house nearby. David hated the idea. He imagined a dirty, miserable hut, but he had no choice. When they arrived, the house was exactly what David feared. Bamboo walls, a tin roof, a single light bulb. But inside, there was a feast. It was a birthday party for a 7-year-old girl named Anna. There were 20 people squeezed into a space the size of David's walk-in closet. The moment David walked in, the room went quiet. He felt like an alien. He felt superior. He looked at their worn-out clothes and the simple plates of rice and fish. But then, the grandmother, Lola Rosa, approached him. She didn't see a rich American. She saw a tired, wet traveler. She draped a warm, hand-woven blanket over his shoulders and handed him the largest plate of food in the house. "Eat," she said in broken English. You are home now. The shocking discovery. David sat in the corner, eating the best meal he'd had in years, not because of the ingredients, but because of the spirit. He watched the family. He saw Anna opening her gifts. They weren't iPads or designer clothes. They were handmade dolls, a box of pencils, and a small bag of candies. She was glowing. She was the happiest child David had ever seen. He looked at the father, who worked 18 hours a day in the sun. He looked at the mother, who shared her only chair with David. There was no stress here, no competition, no what's next. There was only now. David thought about his life in California, his 3 ex-wives, his children who only called when they needed a wire transfer, his friends who would disappear the moment his stock price dropped. He had millions of dollars, but he realized he was the poorest person in that room. The reversal, the breaking point, the shock, came when Jun told David the story of the house. 2 years ago, a typhoon had wiped everything away. The family lost their crops, their livestock, and half their roof. How are they so happy? David whispered, his voice cracking. They have nothing. Jun looked at him, his eyes kind. Sir, we don't have nothing. We have each other. In your country, you have everything, but you are all alone. Here, no one is ever alone. That was the moment. The dam broke. The rich American didn't just tear up. He sobbed. He wept for the decades he spent chasing things that didn't matter. He wept for the people he'd looked down on. He reached into his bag and pulled out a stack of Philippine pesos, nearly $5,000 in cash. He tried to give it to Lola Rosa for the house. She pushed his hand away. No, she said firmly, you are our guest. You don't pay for family. David realized he couldn't buy his way into their world. He had to earn his way into his own humanity. The payoff, a new man. David didn't go back to the 5-star resort the next day. He stayed in the village for a week. He helped fix the roof. He bought a tractor for the farmers, not as a gift from a rich man, but as a thank you from a friend. He sat on the dirt floor and played games with Anna. When he finally left for the airport, he didn't look at his Rolex once. In fact, he left it on the table in the bamboo house with a note that said, "For Anna's education, don't sell it until she's ready to change the world." David arrived in the Philippines as a tourist. He left as a human being. He discovered that the third world wasn't underdeveloped. It was his own heart that was underdeveloped. David's life changed because of a wrong turn. But what happens when a group of tourists takes a shortcut into a forbidden zone of the Amazon? You won't believe what the tribe showed them. Click here to see the secret they've been keeping for centuries.